Okay, so the things you need to know. A piano has 12 notes on every octave. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Each note is called a semitone. So from this to this is a semitone. And also this to this is called a semitone. So the step from this to this is called one semitone. So every key you have on a piano, or in this case in the piano roll, is called a semitone. When you go over all of the 12 notes and you are on the 13th note, that is called an octave. So that is an octave. Let's start from the note C. In this example, I will show you what we do when we go from C1. Each note here is, as I said before, a semitone, even those that are black keys. There's also a note which is a whole note, so from C to D is a whole note, and that is 2 semitones. So from here to there, that is a note, even though we pass the semitone that is the black key in this instance. So from C1 to D1, that is a note. If we go from one semitone from C and up, that would be a C sharp. You can see that with the little square sign there. That is called sharp. So from C and one up, it's a C sharp. From D, one up, D sharp, and so on. There's also one more thing, which is called flat notes. And that is basically the same thing, but when you go down from a note. So let's say C, we go down one note. That is C flat, or also B. So that's the same thing. C flat and B is the same tone. When you go through all of the notes, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, E sharp, as you can see, there are no black key here, so there's basically no E sharp. From E, the piano goes directly to F. Then we have F sharp. Then we have G, G sharp. Then we're going back to A. So the keyboard is from A to G. A and A sharp. B. And there is no B sharp too, so we just have the B here. So every note has a sharp note besides E and B. When I say there isn't a B sharp or an E sharp, technically there isn't, because there is no black key between B and C, or E and F in this case. But in some music theory books, when you have to describe different scales, different chord progressions, they are referring to B sharp, and that is basically a C, or an E sharp, and that is basically an F. But that is not anything that we will learn here. We will just go over sharp notes, so C and C sharp, for instance. We will not cover flat notes because that is just a bit confusing for like when you're producing electronic music. You just want to have like a basic, simple method to make your chord progressions on. But it's important to know that piano, or music theory in this case, the piano is built up in this way. In this course, we will be covering something called scales. A scale is basically a table of different notes that you are allowed to use in a chord progression. So let's say that we want to produce in C major. We have to look in the C major scale. So, as you can see, I have all of the major and minor scales because there are two different types of scales. There are even more types of scales that are major and different scales, type of scales in the major scale, and the same thing in minor. You have natural minor, you have harmonic minor, but in this case we're just going to use the mostly common used major scale type and minor scale type. So when we, for instance, want to make or produce a track in C major, just have to go and look up in the C major row here. There we have the keys that are allowed to be used in the C major scale. So we want to make a C major track or produce chord progression in the C major scale. So we are allowed to use everything that is here. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B. If we, for instance, are using C and then we have a C sharp in there, that is not going to sound good. So if we allow ourselves to make a track and make a chord progression that is going to be like this, that is a C, that is a D, that is a E. That is something we could use in our chord progression. That didn't sound really good at all because we have to learn how many steps you can take in this major scale. If you're just making like C, D, E, F, G, A, it would sound too much. The chord progression would be too full, and you have to take some different steps to make the harmonic relations between these notes sound good. But we will cover that in the next lectures. The main difference of the major scale and the minor scale is that a major scale is the happy one. Like, you will get only happy chord progressions or happy sounding chord progressions with the major scale. And the minor scale is more of the sad tones or sad chord progressions, or chord progressions with a lot of tension in it, or darker chord progressions, if you would call it so. So in dance music, we often use minor scales, but there are some like pop, EDM kind of music, or pop music in general, they mainly have the major scale, and that is just because they're very catchy to the ear. So it is a good thing to know that most of the child music are made in major scale because it's so catchy. Alright, so this is the the only things that you really need to know about the piano and the music theory when making music in the method that I'm going to show you. So of course you can read on up to how, like, more of the music theory things, because this is just a short video explaining the basic stuff that you really need to know. But if you want to make music and make awesome chords, melodies, bass lines, you just really have to know all of these things that I explained to you in this video. And after that, you're just going to follow a general rule and experiment with that. That is, I know a lot of music producers that use this method. I know it is like a very good thing to have there. You don't really need to have any piano or anything with you. You can just use your laptop and a mouse, or even the trackpad on the laptop, to make awesome chords. So let's see you in the next lecture that I'm going to explain more of this method.